为此法会具一切众生，尽传妙法轮，教导我们如何了生作死离苦得乐，四正无生。With great virtue, out of compassion, for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to leave suffering and attain bliss and end birth and death, and quickly realize non-birth. 持法师。南无
萨旦陀苏切多耶阿拉赫蒂三藐三菩提舍。
南无萨旦陀
Can't hear me?
多耶阿拉诃帝三藐三菩提舍。Yes.
南无萨旦陀苏切多耶阿拉赫蒂三藐三菩提舍。
南无萨旦陀苏切多耶阿拉诃帝三藐三菩提舍。
南无萨旦陀苏切多耶阿拉赫蒂三藐三菩提舍。
南无萨旦陀苏切多耶阿拉诃帝三藐三菩提舍。
南无楞严会上佛菩萨。
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 南无楞佛菩萨。
南无楞严会上佛菩萨。
Okay, so how is my sound? Is my sound okay?
It's pretty
Can you hear
clear.
me?
Yeah, very good from
What?
JGH. Very clear from JGH Buddha Hall.
Okay, good. So tonight we continue talking about Guan Yin Bodhisattva's 14 kinds of fearlessness. I am Heng Chih. I ordained in 1969 under the Venerable Master. And my translator is Jin Jing. Jin Jing, can you tell people who you are?
My name is Jin Jing. I left the home life in 2005. I'm tonight's translator. 持法师他短短的介绍自己，说叫恒持，1969年在上人的座下出家受具足戒，那进经是今晚的翻译者，2005年出家，阿弥陀佛。For some reason, we can't see your screen. We saw everyone's name.
You can't see my screen.
Oh, yes. Here we go.
Okay. Be nice to go through everyone's name and know who everyone is, but that would probably take the whole time. So we'll continue. Last night we talked about the first three of the fearlessnesses. So tonight we'll begin with the fourth.
所以昨天晚上我们讲了十世无畏的前三个，那么今天呢，我们会继续从这边再接起。
If you have comments or questions, would you please write them in the chat box, and Stacy will be reviewing what's in the chat box, and I will stop occasionally and try to answer your questions or allow your comments to be known to everybody.
那么在这个期间呢，如果你有问题的话，可以把你的问题打在 chat box 聊天的那个框里面。那么 Stacy 她会看这些问题，所以中间我们会偶尔停一下，然后看看有没有什么问题或者是说你有一些评语的话，我们也可以让大家知道。
So we're looking at the successful awakening of Guan Yin Bodhisattva. She talks about her Dharma door and how it brought her awakening. And this is from the Shurangama Sutra.
所以我们现在要看到的是观世音菩萨讲他的修行的法门，以及他所得到的圆通。那么这个是从楞严经里面摘出来的。
And of that part, we're only covering the 14 kinds of fearlessness. Guan Yin also talks about 32 response bodies that she's able to have, and then 4 other wonderful functions that she achieves. We're sticking to the 14 fearlessnesses.
那么在这个中间，耳根圆通里面有这个14无畏只是其中的一个部分。那么观世音菩萨在这里面圆通章也讲到32应身，跟另外4种的功能。但是今天呢，这一次我们就会只讲14无畏。
So the fourth one. Jinjing Shi and I will read what's on the page, and then I'll comment and she'll translate. Fourth, because I have put an end to deluded mental activity, and so have no thoughts of harming or killing, I can make sure that any being who enters the realms will not be harmed by them.
四者断灭妄想，心无杀害，令诸众生入诸鬼国，鬼不能害。
Okay, as with last night, the green font indicates the state in meditation that Guan Yin Bodhisattva achieved. And then the gold font indicates because she achieved that state in meditation, she was able to do something for beings. So the gold says what she's able to do.
所以我们再回来看到这个绿色字体的这个部分，标出来的就是观世音菩萨他禅坐的境界，他能够达到的一些功夫。那么金色的字体表示，因为他有这种禅坐的功夫、禅坐的境界，他能够为众生所做的事情帮助众生。
So between the Puman Pin from the Lotus Sutra, Fa Hua Jing, is that this Yan Tong Jiang from the Shurangama Sutra, Lang Yin Jing, the difference is that in the Shurangama Sutra, Guan Yin is speaking herself, and she's explaining to us, when this happened to me in meditation, then I was able to do this for living beings. In the Puman Pin, it's Shakyamuni Buddha telling everybody about Guan Yin's accomplishments. So in the Puman Pin, we're going to hear the part in gold. We're going to know what Guan Yin was able to do. But what we don't hear in the Puman Pin is what happened in meditation that allowed her to do that. So that's the difference in the texts.
所以在普门品里面，也就是在法华经那么这个我们现在看到的经文是在楞严经的耳根圆通章。耳根圆通章跟普门品它所不同的地方是在楞严经里面，观世音菩萨他自己 叙述以及跟众生解释，因为他的禅坐的境界，他能够帮助众生做这些以下的这些事情。那么在普门品里面是释迦牟尼佛他告诉大众，观世音菩萨他所修行的成就以及他的妙用。所以在这个金色的部分呢，金色字体的部分，其实就是我们在普门品里面会看到观音菩萨他的妙用。但是在普门品里面，我们所不知道的部分呢，就是在楞严经里面所讲的观世音菩萨他的禅修的这些境界。那因为他的这些功夫能够帮助众生所做的什么事情。
So as I said last night, with the Puman Pin, we feel great joy when we recite it. We're joyful that the Buddha shared with us, and we're joyful about the accomplishments of Guan Yin. And we take it on faith.
所以我们昨天讲过，我们诵念普门品的时候，通常都会发这种大欢喜心，因为佛就告诉我们，观世音菩萨他的神通、他的妙用，他能够帮助众生做什么。那么在那一个期间，我们诵的时候呢，我们多数是以信心为主。
In this text, we are given reasons why Guan Yin is able to do the things she does. So for someone who isn't steeped in faith, this is a good text because it tells you why.
所以在这个经文里面，我们可以看到这个为什么观世音菩萨能够有他的妙用。我们可以看到他的原因，可以看到他的理由。如果一个人他对观世音菩萨的信心不是很强的话呢，在这一边你就可以知道为什么。
On these green pages, this is Venerable Master Hua's commentary. And when he says I, he's representing Guan Yin Bodhisattva. So Guan Yin Bodhisattva already cut off false thinking. When false thinking stopped, my mind was devoid of killing and harming. Because of that, I'm able to aid beings. If they enter a Shasha ghosts, they need only single-mindedly say my name, and the ghosts will not be able to harm them.
四者，我已断灭妄想，妄想不生，心无杀害，因此能加倍众生。假若他们误入罗刹鬼国，但能一心称我名号，鬼就不能伤害。
False thinking belongs to the sixth mind consciousness. That's basically pretty much the mind we're using right now. That is the mind, the part of the mind that discriminates and delineates and defines. So in Buddhism, we recognize the mind has 8 parts, and this is the 6th part, which is our ordinary stream of consciousness. So, go ahead.
所以这边就讲到第六意识，第六意识就是我们现在所用的这个心。那这个我们第六意识呢，它是以分别为主，然后它会对事物来下定义。在佛教里面，我们把我们的心分成8个部分。那么这个第六意识呢，就是我们平常在用的这个视心。
So when before Shila, Venerable Master Hsien left the world, the last things he said was, cut off greed, hatred, and stupidity, and cultivate precepts, samadhi, and wisdom. Greed, hatred, and stupidity are pretty much housed in our 6th consciousness.
在虚云老和尚圆寂以前呢，他就有讲到要断贪嗔痴，勤修戒定慧。 那么这个贪嗔痴基本上呢，就是涵盖在我们的第六意识里面。
熄灭贪嗔痴, yeah, okay. So as before, we have this chart. This is 打坐的功夫，观音菩萨打坐的功夫。这个是他打坐功夫成功啊，就可以去帮助众生。以后这个就是师父的注解。So we will read again these 3 columns.
I think you said in Chinese. So the first column is the meditation skills. And because of the meditation skills, that's the ability Guan Shi Bodhisattva has to help living beings. And all the way on the right-hand side, you see Venerable Master Hua's comment. So we will read the text.
I, meaning Guan Yin, put an end to the deluded thoughts and so have no thoughts of harming or killing. So our greed, hatred, and stupidity, harming and killing is going to belong to hatred primarily, although stupidity and greed could be involved. But when Guan Yin put an end to any thoughts of harming and killing, then he was able to help beings who entered realms where there were ghosts to not be harmed by them. The master says false thinking belongs to the 6th mind consciousness, which the Buddha likened to a thief.
所以在这边就讲到，断灭妄想，它的主持是我就是观世音菩萨。那么这个就是心无杀害，杀害呢是属于嗔心，但是这个嗔心之中可能也有贪跟痴有份在里面。那当观世音菩萨他已经熄灭他的杀心、他的害心以后，他就能够帮助众生入诸鬼国，鬼不能害。那上人的解释是说，妄想就是第六意识，佛喻之为贼。
So basically, what Guan Yin does is a kind of transference of her ability. So she reached the point where she didn't have any thoughts of harming. And so she could translate that over into helping beings by not letting them be harmed.
所以基本上，观世音菩萨在这边所做的呢，就是把他的功能、把他的能力转到众生的身上。意思就是说，当他的这种没有杀害的心到达一个顶点的时候，他就能把这种能力呢转化到众生的身上，让众生能够入诸鬼国，鬼不能害。
Okay, so that was the 4th. Here is the 5th. When I had succeeded in merging my faculty of hearing with the enlightened nature of hearing, my 6 faculties dissolved into each other with my faculty of hearing. Therefore, if beings are about to be attacked, I can cause the attacker's blades to shatter so that these beings will suffer no hurt, any more than water would be hurt by a knife that is plunged into it, or any more than light would be affected by a puff of wind.
所以刚才那个是第4无畏，现在来到第5。五者熏闻成闻，6根消覆，听令众生，铃当被害，刀断坏。Oops, let me go back. 其刀割犹如割水，如吹光，性摇动。
Sorry, 我的心摇动。Okay, so again, in the green, we see Guan Yin telling us, this is what happened in my meditation. So she says, my faculty of hearing merged with the nature of hearing, the enlightened nature. And when that happened, my 6 faculties dissolved into each other to become one with my faculty of hearing.
那么这个就是观世音菩萨他打坐的禅修的境界，就是熏闻、成闻、6根消复。
And following that, then, because that happened to her in meditation, then in the gold, what she was able to do is if beings were going to be attacked, she could shatter the blade. She could keep the attack from hurting the victim.
接下来就是因为他打坐的境界，他能令众生听令众生铃当被害，刀断断坏。
This is Venerable Master's commentary. The I again refers to Guan Yin. Because Guan Yin returned the hearing to her own nature, original enlightenment permeated within, permeated the false hearing, so it became true hearing. When one sense organ returned to its source, the 6 sense organs together were rid of falseness and returned to truth. One sense organ returned to the source, and the 6 sense organs gained liberation. This is a specific portion of the Shurangama Sutra, in which this skill of this, the function you do in meditation that can bring this about, is described in detail.
吾者因我反闻自性，本觉内熏，熏妄闻成为真闻，一根反缘，6根亦同时消妄复真，一根即反缘，6根成解脱。那么这个是《楞严经》里面一个特别的一个部分。那么就是因为观世音菩萨他有这样子的打坐的功夫，他后面才有这个功能。
The 6 sense organs could then interfunction. And so I became able to aid beings so that were they about to be harmed or killed, they need only single-mindedly say my name, and I will be able to prevent them from being harmed or killed. The knives that threaten them will be severed, and other weapons will.
6根可以互用，不能加倍众生。假使他们将被杀害的时候，但是能一心称我名号，我就会令杀害他们的利刀自然一段一段的断折，兵器割己亦失去效用。
It would be like trying to cut water with a knife. The knife would not be harmed. The water would not be harmed. It would be like blowing on sunlight. The light would not be shaken. That is because my own nature is in a state of unmoving suchness. Weapons cannot enter it. And so I can aid beings so that they too will not be harmed.
就好像用刀斩水一样，水无伤痕，用口来吹日光，吹不掉光。这是因为我的自性如如不动，刀枪不入，故能加倍众生同样不受害。
So the master mentions, the text mentions, Guan Yin mentions the inner penetration of the 6 senses. And the master explained that just now on the green pages of his commentary, but I wanted to take you to another place where he explains it. That is in the Heart Sutra verses. He makes verses for the Heart Sutra that reads, because no impediments are left, no fear exists, and we escape from distorted dream thinking.
OK， 所以观世音菩萨刚才有讲到六根互用，上人在这个绿色的字体的部分有解释，那么上人呢也在另外一本经里面的注解也有解释到这个部分，所以这个就是在般若波罗蜜多心经里面的飞台颂，是上人做的寄颂。那么上人这边就讲到无挂碍，明真放下。再无恐怖，业障除，远离颠倒生相破，梦想粗细杀或如。
Okay, so the first 4 lines of verse say, having no impediments is true letting go. So if we use the same coloring, having no impediments would be the thing that would happen to us in meditation. And also this sutra is discussing Guan Yin again. So Guan Yin is talking about what happened. So she had no impediments. And the result of that is no fear exists. And as we see in the text that we're studying from the Sharanggama, it's about 14 fearlessnesses that Guan Yin can use because for her, no fear exists.
OK， 所以我们现在在看同样的颜色，这个绿色的这个部分呢，就是观世音菩萨他打坐的境界，就是没有无挂碍，因为无挂碍，无有恐怖，所以无有恐怖。那么，所以我们在《楞严经》里面研究的是14无畏，所以因为观世音菩萨他能够有这种打坐的境界，因为他没有这种挂碍，没有这种恐怖，所以他有无畏。
So her verse, Master's verse, the first 4 lines say, having no impediments is the true letting go. Being free of fear rids us of karma's obstacles. Far beyond distortions, we can break through the last vestiges of ignorance. This is Sheng Shang Wu Ming. And so it's translated here, the last vestiges of ignorance, because Sheng Shang Wu Ming is what bodhisattvas hold on to, that lets them remain in the bodhisattva path and not become Buddhas. So bodhisattvas of equal enlightenment, because they do not relinquish the last vestiges of ignorance, basically letting appearances come into being, that kind of ignorance, then they remain as bodhisattvas. So that's the last bit of ignorance we have to cut off. So from the time we begin to not be so upside down and confused, all the way to when we are holding on to the last vestiges, the last traces of ignorance is what this line means.
It's a bit hard. OK， 所以这个前4个就是4首偈颂，就是讲无挂碍，明真放下，再无恐怖，业障除，远离颠倒生相破，梦想粗细杀或如。那么这个生相破就是在第3句，生相破这个生相呢，就是表示生相无明。那我们翻译到英文就是翻译成 last vestiges of ignorance， 就是菩萨他最后一份的生相无明。那么如果破了这个最后一份生相无明，菩萨就可以成佛。那么因为还没有破这一份生相无明，他把这个生相无明留下来，所以他就还可以再继续度众生。那么所以从我们开始不颠倒开始，一直到最后修行这个阶段，到这个生相无明，也就是我们要解释的这一个地方。
Last line says dream thoughts and coarse, subtle, and minuscule delusions transform to suchness. So as we become less confused, don't have dream thinking, and let go of our delusions, we transform into someone with suchness. These delusions are what we take care of before we go to the Pure Land as ordinary people, or we go to the Pure Land still in these delusions, and we work on getting rid of those delusions once we're in the Pure Land.
所以这边就有讲到，远离颠倒梦想啊，我们可以把我们的颠倒梦想放下啊，然后那这个颠倒梦想就是说，我们 I didn't get the very last part about the part
Okay,
they go to the Pure Land.
Okay, so 素的迷惑、习的迷惑，还有尘沙的迷惑，那是我们要去那个阿弥陀佛的极乐世界，我们必须要还在娑婆世界要减少，甚至于断除这三种的惑：粗惑、细惑、尘沙惑。或者呢，延年成熟，我们还可以去阿弥陀佛的极乐世界，带这些火到那边，然后在极乐世界慢慢的断粗火、细火。
Okay.
With the three obstacles dissolved, three virtues are perfected. Bottom, the three obstacles are the obstacle of karma, the obstacle of retributions, the obstacle of afflictions. So that's our work in meditation, to dissolve those. And then the result of that is the six faculties are used interchangeably, certifying the attainment of the six spiritual powers. So the three virtues up here that we also dissolve are the virtue of liberation, of prajna, and the dharma body. I mean, we attain those. And when we have cut off the three obstacles and attain the three virtues, then we get the inner penetration of the six sense organs, which is what's talked about in this fearlessness.
OK， 所以这边就讲到 the three obstacles， 三障消融圆三德。那么这个三障呢，下面有讲到就是我们的业障、报障跟烦恼障。那就是我们打坐的时候呢，需要把这个三障呢能够消融了。那么三障消融以后呢，我们六根就能够互用。就讲到六根互用正六通，那么怎么样六根能够互用呢？就要圆满我们的三德。三德是什么呢？就是在下面讲到解脱德、般若德跟法身德。所以我们破了这个三障以后，就会有三德。那么六根可以互用，这个也就是我们在楞严经里面四无畏呢所讲到的，刚才讲到的那个部分。
In the last two lines of his verse, the master says, those capable of comprehending this wonderful principle can make it function. So at the level of noumena, we come to understand that noumenal concept, that principle. And so we can then, in the phenomenal world, we can make it function. We base ourselves on our understanding of the noumena, which is we have to get rid of our obstacles, and we must generate virtue, and then we'll have the six spiritual powers, and our six sense organs will function interchangeably. So at the one level, we understand, and then we can make it function in our daily life. And that's how Guan Yin helps. She takes the principle that she realized in meditation and she applies it specifically to sentient beings. Those who know easily awaken and avoid the dark and difficult paths. So it's a matter of knowing. Once you know, you know. And you're able to know what to do. So he says it's easy.
好，那么这边我们就讲到，会此妙理亲受用。这个理呢，是指的这个理法界，我们知道的这个道理，但是我们就在这个事法界里面来修，所以我们要先消除我们的三障，消融我们的三障，那么能够修这个功德，那么功德圆满才会有六通，六通才能够有六根互用。所以在这个层次上面呢，我们就能够了解，了解就有这个用。所以这个就是观世音菩萨可以帮助众生的一个地方。观世音菩萨他有他的打坐的境界跟功夫，那有这个功夫成熟以后，他就可以应用在众生的身上。接下来就讲到知者易悟，昧难图。那么这个知就是知道了解了，就是你知道就知道了，知道什么呢？知道就知道要怎么做，那么怎么做，知道怎么做就变得很容易了。
Oh dear. Now, why do I have that and I can't? What have I done here? I can't move. Okay, there we go. So what we have now is the chart, merging my faculty of hearing with the enlightened nature of hearing, my six faculties dissolved into each other and became one with my hearing faculty. And when that happened, I can make it so if beings are going to be attacked, I can shatter the rights that are not heard.
熏闻成闻，六根消复，同于声听，能令众生铃当被害，刀断断坏。
So the master says, when one sense organ returns to the source, the six sense organs gain liberation. This is also in the Sharanagama Sutra. A whole section talks about this. So if you'd like to learn more, you can go there. The six sense organs interfunction. So Guan Yin became able to aid beings so that if they were going to be hurt, she could prevent them from being hurt.
OK， 所以这个就是上人讲的，我们在《楞严经》里面，这个一根即返缘，六根成解脱。在《楞严经》里面，我们有一整段一整段是在特别讲这个。如果大家有兴趣的话呢，可以去看这个章节。这边就讲到六根互用，故能加倍众生。假使我们将被杀害，但能一心称我名号。我会令利刀自然一段一段的断折。
Sorry. Are you finished?
Yes.
Stacy, does anybody have any comment or question?
Yes, Dharma Master, we have 4 questions. 3 of them are about the Guan Yin method. One question is about the Sharanagama mantra. Do you want to answer questions?
Yeah, let's take all 4. I'll try.
Okay, so 3 of them are in Chinese. I'll read the Chinese first and then I'll try to translate it into English. The first one is from Loy from CTTB. He says, 所以第一个问题是，Loy 在万佛圣城 问的，他问持法师知见玄复，根据永嘉大师正道歌了即业障本来空，是不是可以说修行到大彻大悟之后，他就有五眼六通，能把火变成池吗？因为他不被业力所转，恳请法师慈悲开示我彻底明白知见玄复。So this question is about yesterday's talk, the second of the 14 fearlessness, and for the phrase, Guan Yin was able to turn my awareness around and restored it. And so he's asking that according to Master Yongjia's Song of Enlightenment, there is a line in there that says, when one has understood that the karmic obstructions are fundamentally empty. So he's asking, does this mean that when one cultivates until one awakens completely and obtain the 5 eyes and the 6 spiritual penetrations, then one is able to turn fire into a pool of water? Because Guan Yin is no longer turned by the power of karma in this case. And he respectfully asks the Star Master to explain to him.
Well, the pool of water wasn't Guan Yin. The pool of water was one of the sages who got enlightened through water, I guess, one of the 7 elements in the Sharingama. I think we have to be careful when we, basically Master Yongjia was an enlightened person, certified by the 6th patriarch, his enlightenment. So he can talk about karma becoming empty. I'm a little more reluctant to talk about that. That hasn't happened to me. And I think we need to take care to understand that karma is quite complicated. We know that even after the Buddha was a Buddha, he suffered some harm because, and he explained to his disciples that was because it was a payback of karma for something he had done. So if as a Buddha, he explained to his disciples that he was still receiving a retribution for karma, then I think we have to be careful we don't surmise too much. And so, Loy, it's hard for me to answer. The other reason it's hard for me to answer is I don't have the 5 eyes open and I don't have the function of the 6 spiritual penetrations. So probably rather than asking me, you ought to continue your practice. And when you get them, then you can tell me.
OK， 所以刚才这个问题里面讲到的这个一滩水，这个应该不是观世音菩萨他证得的圆通，这个是25圣里面呢，他在应该是用水大证得的圆通，在7大之一。那么我们听这个问题，我们要知道我们要非常的注意，因为永嘉大师他是一位大彻大悟的觉者，那么六祖大师呢是certify 就是给他证明他的开悟，所以一个大彻大悟的觉者，他可以讲到这个业是业空的，但是我自己本身是非常的要 reluctant 很不太愿意去，
很不得已的，很不得已的，
很不得已要不太愿意要讲这个业是空的这种的说法。因为我还没有大彻大悟，所以我们在讲这个业要注意，因为业呢它是非常的复杂，业往交织。当佛成佛的时候呢，他也是有受一些报。那么当佛在解释这个给他的弟子听的时候呢，他是说，因为他往昔有某一种业，那么他现在呢是来这个酬偿他的业债。那如果说佛都这样子跟他的弟子讲的话呢，我们最好呢就不要说业空啊什么的。 但是因为我自己还没有开无眼，我也没有这个六神通，所以与其问我这个问题，不如那个 Loy 你继续的修行，那么等你开无眼呢，证得这个六通，那么你就可以告诉我了。
The next question is about Shurangama mantra. Also, this question is in Chinese. 接下来这个问题是郑守华从黑龙江省问的。顶礼恒持法师，弟子郑守华，清华，恭请持法师开示在家人时间充足，修行学习楞严咒、楞严经法门的何种方式方法更如法得力，更易成就。诵持楞严咒七遍，然后诵108遍心咒，和诵持楞严咒全咒两种方式方法差异在哪里呢？恭请持法师教授弟子及在线的有缘人。So the second question is from Zheng Shouhua in Heilongjiang, China. And this person is asking that for lay people who have time to practice and study the Shurangama mantra and Shurangama Sutra, which of the following method would be the most according to Dharma and most enable one's effort to be accomplished easily? He asked two methods. The first method is reciting the Shurangama mantra 7 times and then recite the heart mantra 108 times, or just simply reciting the entire Shurangama mantra. What is the difference between these two methods? May Dharma Master share.
Well, in the platform part of the Shurangama Sutra, the first method is the one that's recommended, not necessarily 7 Shurangama mantras, but after a period of reciting the whole Shurangama mantra, sometimes, then to end the day with 108 mantra at the end. So that is a prescription that goes along with how to do the platform. And your second choice is just the Shurangama mantra. So I'm assuming you're saying more than 7 times. In other words, you would just keep continuing to recite the Shurangama mantra and not end that and go into the heart. I think it's good to do the heart because Shifu, who was a sage, told us that was the way we should do our day. We should do at least 1 mantra in the morning, and usually most of our way places will do another 3 together. So that would be 4 at least. And then in the evening to do 108 at the end of the day. And since he set up our daily routine that way, I'm going to say that he had good reason for lay people and monastics to have an opportunity to do the 108 heart at the end. However, there's no fixed dharma, which is the other thing that the master taught us. So if for you prefer the repetition of the mantra and you maybe get into samadhi that way and you don't want to break it and do the heart, I see nothing wrong with that. When you ask which is better, you're asking me to make a moral judgment, and I don't think it's necessary. I think bottom line is the one that works for you.
OK， 那么在我们的结这个楞严坛的时候呢， 第一个方法，我们是建议用第一个方法，不一定是先念楞严，要把楞严咒念7次，然后才来念咒心，就是你可以念几次的楞严咒，念一段时间。那么在这个1天结束以后呢，你再念108次的这个咒心等于说是结一个楞严坛。那么要怎么做这个楞严坛呢？这个就是我们结这个楞严坛的一个方法。那如果说第二个方法呢，就是念这个一直持续的诵念楞严咒，我想是多于7遍，但是就没有用这个楞严咒的咒心来结束，然后成了一个楞严坛。对我来说，我觉得如果我们要念楞严咒，然后以咒心结尾的话，也是不错的方法。宣公上人他是一位圣人，那这个是他教我们的方法，就是每一天我们在道场至少早会念1次，那有的分支道场会再念完以后会再念3次的楞严咒，那么就有4次。那晚上我们晚上我们结尾的时候呢，就再念108遍的咒心。那这个是上人呢对我们在道场功课他所给我们的这个时间表，他要求我们做的。那么对我来说这个也是一个对在家人出家人修行的一个非常好的方法。但是法无定法，如果你喜欢一直念楞严咒的话，那个也是都没有问题的。你如果喜欢一直念，那你或许可以入到一种三昧，然后你不想打岔，你想继续就念这个咒，那个也是没有关系。那你问我哪一种方法更好更得力呢？就是你要求我去分别它，有这种次别，我觉得这个是不太必要的。你要怎么做呢？就是看哪一个方法对你最好，你愿意哪一个方法，你就用那一个方法。
Stacy, if I'm right, we have about 3 minutes. So I'll do my best on 2 more questions.
Sure. Actually, one of the participants who asked the question just signed off, so we'll skip that person and go to the last question. This one is from Lisa Oing from Malaysia. She asked, the last vestiges of ignorance, is this the idea of self, the attachment to self and I?
Probably not. Although maybe there's a trace of self in the Bodhisattva who wishes to hold on to his status as a Bodhisattva, and so does not let go of those last vestiges of ignorance. But by the time you're at the level of equal enlightenment Bodhisattva, pretty much the ego has been taken care of. So it's more a case of the Bodhisattva seeing a need in the world that he would prefer to address as a Bodhisattva rather than as a Buddha. Of course, Buddhas say beings too. So I believe I would have to say it's a preference on the part of the Bodhisattva, probably not for his ego, but for the way that beings could be most expediently helped.
Stacy, would you like to translate that question in Chinese?
No, I sorry. Is that, I can't remember what, yeah. And Dharma Master, the last person came back on. It was my mistake. I didn't see them. So there is one more question.
Well, we can take a couple minutes. So the question had to do with 生想无明，是不是生想无明是我们的我相？ And that was the question. And since 生想无明 is what highest equal enlightenment bodhisattvas hold on to, then you can translate my answer.
OK， 所以这个生相无明其实就是最后一分的无明。那菩萨他留着还没有断，就是因为当他们到等觉菩萨的时候，这个我相这个我执其实已经是断了。 所以为什么菩萨他会留着这个身相无名？因为他做着这个不成佛要成菩萨，其实他这是一种他的能说是他一种偏好。为什么呢？因为这样子才能够有最好的方便法来度众生，并不是这个他留这个一份身相无名还没有断，并不是为了他的这个我执或者是他的我相，其实他是为了众生留的。
那最后一个问题呢是有两个部分。So this last question has two parts, and it's asked in Chinese. 那是中文辽宁的范静问的。那第一个部分他是问熏文成文怎么解释，然后他就又继续问如何反文呢？耳根圆通是不是别人说的啥我们不去听呢？反文是别人的错误，看自己有没有错误呢？So there are two parts to the question. The first part was a question about the fifth fearless, when Guan Yin has succeeded in merging my faculty of hearing with the enlightened nature of hearing. So this person asked, what does merging my faculty of hearing with enlightened nature of hearing means? The second part of the question is about how would one return the hearing to hear to practice the method of Guan Yin. Does that mean that when other people, whatever other people say, then we don't listen to it? And does returning the hearing means that when other people's mistake, when I see other people's mistake, then I like look at whether or not I have the same mistake?
Okay, that didn't listen to, and my mistake and other people's mistake. What was that? Was that for the Liu Gan Xiao Fu?
That was for the 反文 and so she asked 是不是别人说啥我们不去听? So does it mean that when other people are maybe talking about gossip? I'm not quite sure if what does the Chinese mean? 别人说啥?
Okay, so it means that how do we return the hearing? The perfection of the ear organ, does it mean that when someone talked about us, we don't listen to their words? Or return the hearing, does it mean that when we see other people's mistakes, we reflect and see if we make the same mistake? Is that the case?
Well, you're mixing sight and hearing, which is interesting. Let's look at Shunwan, Chengwan. Let's look at the Chinese. Shun means to follow along or to be perfumed by. Which one? Jinjing.
Yes.
What shun is this?
Shun is to permeate.
All right, so perfume or permeate. And in here, you'll see that the new translation, the first one is translated as my faculty of hearing. So my faculty of hearing permeates and becomes hearing. So the second hearing is translated as the enlightened nature of hearing. So the permeation of my normal hearing, my hearing faculty, becomes the enlightened nature of hearing. So you can see in the English that it's a rendering of 4 very cryptic Chinese characters. And the translation team certainly would have looked at how to do that by looking at commentaries and considering the context above and below. I believe that we should accept the English that's here because it makes good sense. Then returning the hearing to hear your own nature. You say, does it mean not listening to other people? No, it doesn't mean not listening to other people if that's going to be almost an aggressive act on your part. In other words, don't bother me. I'm turning my hearing inward. I don't want to hear what you have to say. That wouldn't be a Mahayana way of handling things. It does mean that we don't have to place our attention on all the sounds outside of us. It does mean that. And in that sense, we don't need to listen. But I do think we need to listen when we are addressed in a formal way, a respectful way, that we should respond. And finally, you talk about seeing mistakes and reflecting on ourselves. You're kind of mixing metaphors here because we're talking basically about hearing. And the things you brought, this seeing other people's mistakes and reflecting, are they mine? Of course, that's a virtue. But I don't know that it's virtue that is being described here. So that's the best I can do. And we're past time. And we will now transfer the merit.
OK，我很快的把它翻译一下刚才问的这个熏文成文。那我们如果看这个英文的话，这个熏呢，这个熏文的第一个文就是我们平常的听这个听的这个文。那么第二个文成文呢，它的那个文的意思是不一样，它的那个文是已经有开悟有成就的另外一种文。所以我们在翻译的时候，熏文成文呢，他把这个4个非常不容易的字把它翻译出来。那么这个英文呢，在这边也是一个不错的翻译，因为我们在翻译楞严经的时候，我们有一个小组，那么他们也是有参考许多祖师大德他们的注解来翻译的。所以这个熏文成文呢，这个文。第一个文跟第二个文是不一样的。那么第二个问题讲到这个反文，是不是不听别人说什么呢？并不是这个意思。如果我们说别人说什么我们都不要听，其实这个是一种比较侵略性的一种思想，就是说，哎呀，你们都不要管我，我就是在做我的这个反文，你们都不要理我，我也不想要听你们告诉我说什么。不是这种意思，但是它可以说是说，我们在我们之外的这些声音呢，我们不需要太多过分的去注意。那么但是如果说有人告诉我们以一种比较正式尊重的方法告诉我们的话，我们可以听，然后我们可以回答。那第二个部分就是说，别人看到别人的错误，然后回光返照自己的错误，这个其实是修德的一个部分，但是跟熏文成文并不一定会有密切的关系。好，我们的时间到了，阿弥陀佛。So we want to talk about next time.
What's the next one?
I think Thursday and Friday of next week, same time, we'll try to finish up. We're not quite halfway through. And Stacy, I'm going to mute. Could you start us on the dedication, please? And do you want to translate the time, Jinjing?
好，那我们因为也还没有把14无畏讲完，所以我们下个星期4跟下个星期5同一时间，我们会再继续讲14无畏，因为我们还讲不到一半。那么现在我们要回向功德，阿弥陀佛。
Okay, so we'll transfer merit now. May the merit from this practice adorn all the Buddha's lands, repay the kindness from above, and rescue those in paths below. May all who see or hear of this resolve upon awakening And when this body meets its end, be born together in the land of bliss.
3 bows. Amitofo, see you next week.
阿弥陀佛。